Then we are started. Thank you, Maria, very much for doing this presentation about TRE and leadership development. Very interesting topic. And I think it's great, the work you're doing to share TRE and knowledge about stress and trauma in the corporate world, and hopefully to improve the health and the stress and the thriving in the workplace. So I look forward to hearing what you want to present today. And I also want to thank everyone for joining us. I apologize for the delay and my too late in sending out the emails with the Zoom link. But it's great that many of you were able to join anyway. Thank you, Maria. I will now give the word to you.
Well, thank you, Hans, and thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure and honor to be able to speak about my work. So, and thank you for also, because thanks to you, I discovered TRE. So hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Really happy to see so many nationalities and different faces. That's always interesting and nice. And just before I kind of start my presentation and dive into this topic that you can see on the screen about TRE and leadership development, I really want this session to be like interactive. So if you have any questions while I speak, or if you have any comments or things you would like to share from your professional lives or personal lives, really feel free to just raise your hand or send a message. That would make this session even richer to me, and I guess for all of us. So, so my name is Marie. I'm Norwegian. I live in France, and I did the training with Hans a couple of years ago. So I'm now a certified TRE provider. But before that, I was working in business. So I'll start this presentation by sharing my personal story, basically. I just need to figure out how I can move my slides with these. Let me just see. Yeah. So I would like to just kind of share my personal story because that's the reason why I brought TRE into the corporate world. And that's why I'm also today really trying to introduce bodywork to the corporate world. Because of my personal story, my personal suffering in the corporate world, and because of all the suffering that I witnessed. So, so that's why I will share my story and be a little bit vulnerable, maybe, because I think that's important as well, to really show all sides of who we are, which is not always the case when we're in the corporate world, as you probably know. So as I said, like initially, I'm Norwegian. I started a business education, and quite early I got into the business world with higher education. So this was in France because I moved to France. I was very much in love with France, and one thing led to the other. So I started to work for one of the best business schools in France, and I kind of just went with the flow. I got more and more opportunities, and I was just moving along with the opportunities without really reflecting on my inner sensations or preferences. But I was very much interested in the external validation I got through the promotions and also the opportunities with my career. So I was traveling a lot. I was getting more and more status, earning more and more money. And then at some stage, I was headhunted from this French business school to work for Harvard Business School. And I really started to work with the biggest companies in the world. So developing leadership development programs for, like C-level executives. And well, developing training programs for them to improve the practice of management in a changing world. That was our mission. And I was working maybe 70 hours a week and with a lot of pressure. I mean, it was a lot of traveling and rocket high targets to reach, because it was about, of course, developing these leadership development programs, but we also had to sell them. So getting a lot of companies to buy into our programs and continue with us. So the pressure was really high, but at all levels. And of course, it was interesting from one perspective, but I could feel that little by little, my body couldn't keep up with the pace. So also, of course, I had to manage between my personal life, because I also have a son, and with the traveling, I'm divorced. It just became too much, but I didn't want to admit it to myself. I was still just trying to keep up with the pressure and starting really to neglect the signs from my body, because I'd never really been in touch with my inner sensations. I'd always been kind of running, and just going with the opportunities that came my way. So at some stage, I ended up with burnout, meaning that I was not able to really function any longer. I had not been able to set the necessary boundaries that one should do. And at some stage, my body just collapsed and said, okay, I can't deal with this anymore. So I got really sick, like physically sick. And I was on sick leave for a long time. And I just realized that I'd gotten to a point where I had ignored all the signals from my body, with fatigue, with constant, like, small illnesses coming my way, but I had ignored them completely. And with also kind of like managers who didn't understand. So in correlation with that, I just collapsed. And I realized that I had to make some deep changes in my life if I didn't want to lose everything I had in my life, and the most important things, basically. And what I also realized is that I was not the only one to suffer, because in my team, people were sick, I mean, and serious diseases. And also, we were led by people who were really in like hyper-vigilant states, because they were managed by managers who were under high pressure as well. So the pressure was infused in the entire organization, which led to really people running around without really their heads connected to their bodies, right? So I realized that at a certain level, people were also taking a lot of substances to cope with the high pressure. But in the end of the day, the individual health didn't really have any priority in the organization. What mattered was really just the end result of the month, with obviously these financial reviews every week, actually. So that was about the dollar, not at all the mental health. And that was obviously something that I realized after I left the organization, because when I was in the organization, I was so much in this loop myself that I was unable to see that this was actually a disease in the entire system. So in addition to that, we expect, and this is actually taken from Harvard, these were the principles we preached to the organizations, where the mental health was also the same as in our organization, basically, that these are the necessary leadership skills in the VUCA world. So this complex world we are living in. And you can see on my slide, I mean, these are skills that require a lot from each and one of us, right? And it's impossible to develop these skills in hypervigilant states. Impossible. So personal adaptability, learning agility, you're supposed to leverage your networks as well. So network across business units, inspire engagement, and so on. And how is this possible when you're under so much pressure and your brain is wired for survival, basically? So for me, it's not possible. I think this is completely like, it's impossible to expect this from leaders who are in hypervigilant states due to the pressure they are under. So this is just, I'll get back to how I work with organizations now, but I just want to also say that after my experience, I was looking for ways to just find back to myself. And then maybe it was destiny, but I don't know how. Yeah, I listened to a Norwegian podcast and I heard about TRE. And I found the organization that Hans is running, Oppmerksomhetsbevegelse. And I just registered for his class. And this became really like the beginning of a deep transformational journey to me. Because through this training and the examination process with Sarah, who's also on the webinar today, and I'm also deeply grateful to you, I really discovered myself on a much deeper level. And I transformed my life completely after this. And I've also used, of course, all I learned in the work with companies today, because I really believe that we can change the corporate world. We just have to do things differently. So in the program, just going back to this, going in the program with Hans, I was still applying the same mechanisms as I had done in my professional career, with pushing and not really listening to my limits or my inner sensations. So in the examination with Sarah, because she was the one evaluating the videos I had to record, because I don't know if you're all familiar with the program that Hans is running, the TRE training, but you have to record videos where you have people that you are instructing. You are instructing TRE and you record the video and it's evaluated. So it's a really, really interesting process. And I got the feedback from Sarah and it was really painful, because I could see that I was teaching TRE like I had been treating myself in the corporate world, and maybe other people as well, by pushing and not listening to their limits. And Sarah was telling me this person is really like super activated, and you were just pushing, and you didn't really see her limits. So for me, this was such valuable, painful feedback, but it really allowed me to kind of, well, it was a wake-up call. I was like, this is actually the problem. I'm pushing, I'm not listening to the other person's limits. I'm not respecting my own limits. So this became really a kind of awakening to me. And after this TRE training, I actually transformed my life, where I wanted to introduce these practices to the corporate world. Because I was thinking there is something here that I can use with leaders, and that can maybe help them to make better decisions, to manage better. If they are better connected to themselves, they will be able to better connect with other people. So that really informed my work, and more kind of globally speaking, how can we cultivate well-being, like in business? And I really believe that we have to introduce body work in order to do so. Because current practices when it comes to well-being in business today is a lot about the head, the mind. I was thinking, how can we work with the mind if we're completely disconnected from our own bodies? It's not possible. First, we need to connect to our bodies, and then we can do the cognitive work. And for me, TRE was kind of a wonderful way of starting to introduce TRE in the corporate. So I don't know. I feel like this is kind of a monologue. So I don't know if there are any reactions or comments or similar experiences that you would like to share. Esti?
Hi. Yeah, hi.
Yes, hi.
Hi. I really appreciate this topic.
Yes, thank you.
Something I'm very passionate about, to bring these awarenesses to the corporate world. I'm not sure how I can bring TRE to the corporate world. But I'm doing a few things, but that's one of the things, like, oh, this is interesting to me. So I really appreciate this topic.
What are you doing? What are you currently doing?
So I'm doing neurofeedback. I discovered one form of neurofeedback that I do, and I'm in a different training for forward-facing trauma therapy. But I'm looking to connect it all. Like, it's different, but it's like, for me, it's one thing. But I finished my training in TRE recently, like in June. So I'm looking, like, hopefully bring it into my community. But I also have this dream to bring, I don't know how TRE can be brought to the corporate world, but to bring it to the corporate world, because I feel like I'm a business person, and I've been in business for years, and I know that how much businesses lose money, and how much abuse it goes on in businesses, and burnout, and people don't realize it, that how much it costs their business, that if their workers are uptight with other clients, if the
So true. So true. And so interesting that you're bringing in neurofeedback now as a therapeutical method in business.
I want to. No, I'm not saying I did, but it's something that it's in my mind. I made the name of my business, so I should be able to bring it into the corporate world also. Maybe one day.
Wonderful. No, really
I
great.
do TRE together with neurofeedback. While I do neurofeedback, I do TRE, and I love that experience.
Fantastic. And I also I also got trained in EMDR. because I realized that leaders are deeply traumatized individuals as well. So when they come to the workplace, they will not, of course, put their backgrounds and their lives like in the hallway and walk into the office and just be robots, right? We all bring our stories into the workplace with a lot of traumatized individuals in the end of the day, right? And that is what is happening in the workplace. So that's why I think it's super interesting to bring these methods to help, managers and leaders take more human decisions and not perpetrate what they have experienced in their life. So yeah, super, Esti, that you're thinking about doing something like that. And happy to connect. I mean, if we can discuss, we can share experiences, I mean, just feel free to reach out to me. That would be a pleasure.
I would love to.
Anyone else who would like to share, ask any questions?
Also a comment in the chat from the
Oh yeah, sorry.
Darren. That's such a brilliant topic, and your journey and talk so far is inspiring. What you say makes so much sense to us in theory. I wonder how the corporate world is receiving your message, Darren writes.
Thank you so much, Darren. That's really nice and encouraging. It has not been easy because, you know, it's all a new thing to bring bodywork into the corporate world. But what I am doing is that I am writing quite a lot of articles on the topic. And when I take the scientific approach with TRE, it's actually quite well received. So I just recently wrote one which is specifically on TRE in the corporate world, where I'm suggesting that we should have these rooms dedicated to TRE and emotional releases in the workplace. And even why not just kind of finish a board meeting with a tremoring session or something like that, because, and also saying what I like to do is to kind of challenge leaders and say, will you be the next leader to be bold enough to do something innovative? Because clearly burnout is a huge problem in today's world, and it costs millions. The World Health Organization has defined it as well. I mean, it's real, right? And the corporate world is not reacting to problems before it costs money. And now it's costing a lot. So, so when I started with individuals, and now I'm starting to work more and more with companies and larger groups. I'm also working with business schools now because I want to introduce this to future leaders. And I think this is a very interesting target because they are young, they're open, and they don't have all the prejudices yet because they're still students. So I want to kind of introduce this as something, as an imperative when they're still studying how to deal with mental illness for themselves, but also for the company. Yes, I will share, Hans will share my article, I guess, because I don't have your emails, but Hans, maybe there is, you can share the article. Yeah, thank you.
I shared one now in the chat.
Yeah, thank you so much. So just let me go to the next.
So the next question by Arjan is, if a well-known method like mindfulness is quite challenging to bring into the corporate world, how do you get the managers enthusiastic for a pretty unknown method like TRE?
Actually, it's quite interesting, but TRE, I think it's perfect for business leaders and managers because, you know, it's something quite magical with the tremoring. And no one really expects it when you start to shake in your body. So it's kind of a cool thing as well, funny enough. So I think that, as I said, when things start to cost too much, businesses are forced to do something about the problem. Like, and when you can also have scientifically proved methods that work, business leaders can start to listen, you know. But I think the whole tremoring thing, the fact that the body shakes, just makes it more real to them. I don't know if that makes sense, but this is the feeling I have working with leaders, that they're quite open. And since they are quite alone with their suffering as well, because it's still taboo, I think it's something that a lot of leaders are ready for, maybe even though they're not. So, how to say this? They don't have to speak, since it's just the tremoring and it releases with the body. I think that is kind of solving the taboo issue somehow. Does that answer your question, or?
Yeah, thank you, Marie. As I understand, it's the direct experience from the people participating, that they get enthusiastic about it. And
I've been quite surprised by how people are open to this, and then the wow effect when their body starts to shake. And I think that somehow, of course, all organizations are not ready for this yet, but I try to work with the organizations that are ready, because I think that if we can plant seeds in the organizations that are open for innovation, new methods, we can little by little change the world, right? We can't change everything immediately, but I want to start where people are open. And so I use my personal network from my business experience. And then I also work quite a lot with individual clients who have had a lot of suffering. But I'm hoping that it can become something much more widespread, because it's such accessible and you can work with big groups. And that's why I really love TRE, because I think that was the intention of David Berceli as well, to really reach a large number of individuals, and that people can take it with them back home and privately have emotional releases and things that are more vulnerable. But I think also that we need more vulnerability in the corporate world. And that's why I think it's a nice step in that direction as well. So, because I believe that in order to really develop those skills that are required for leaders today, to drive innovation and to kind of, have the type of energy they're supposed to have with the challenges they're facing, they need to be in a place of safety. They can't be under pressure and completely in hypervigilant states. So, so this is really, and also the challenges that we are facing, because I'm also a climate activist. So I believe also that we need to connect our leaders to their bodily sensations, to their hearts. That's my other slide. Because then they can connect to the people around them in their organizations and to the wider ecosystem we're operating in. So, of course, first to the people they're managing, then to the companies, but to the planetary system as well. And their decisions will be better if they're connected to their own hearts, because if they're completely disconnected and also on substances, because their stress level is so high, so they're trying to kind of deal with that in the wrong way, everything goes wrong, as we can see with the decisions that are made by a lot of corporations. Oh, sorry, I can see Sarah, you're raising your hand.
Yes, thank you, Maria, for this lecture and the sharing of this of the experience. I will share with all of you how my former students in other country working in the business area and different office. The biggest problem practical was all office haven't any place to load down. And they say, okay, we can't do that because we haven't place for that. So we have developed working in the chair. So I have had the chance one time in the last year working in the chair. So we working all things in the chair, all vibrating, all in the standing position, we working on the chair. So my recommendation for other thinking about that, how I can working, for example, in an architect office, in ecote office, you can working in the office. So I use in this moment music, I use mindfulness too. I use brain spotting. You working with EMDR, but I have used brain spotting. And the first I find resource and say practical brain spotting is mindfulness. So I find a resource and the people find the point in the area where is the resource and they're starting to move. So that is a different combination how we can practical improve impact of TRE, how we can make different TRE, non-classical standard TRE. So my recommendation, try to work
really
in
good.
Try in a standing position, make combination with music, make combination with mindfulness, with the brain spotting in there. So they can be do. Or I'm working with that. My former student, a couple of countries working with that.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, that's really good input. Anyone else who would like to comment or has something to share from their own experience or any questions? So this is what I just said. There is a message here, I think. I'm sorry, I'll just check. Yeah, exactly. As they don't, from Darren, yeah, they don't have to talk, so it's easier to be open to TRE. And that was also very important to me because this population, as I said, it's a lot of taboo of saying, yeah, I'm suffering, I'm stressed out. So the fact that they actually don't have to put that into words makes it much more accessible. And it's a way of establishing trust as well with the person. And then you can start with the talking after if that needs come up, if the need come up. So yeah. And this is really, for me, more kind of my own purpose in this work, because I don't think I can change the corporate world. I don't pretend that I can change the world at all. But I'm thinking that if on my small level, I can influence some individuals, some companies, then that can create kind of positive synergetical effects. And we really need that today because there is so much suffering everywhere. And yeah, I truly believe that we just need to connect again, because the relationship we have with ourselves is the relationship we will have with others as well. And I can see from my own experience that I was not being nice to myself. And I was probably not being nice to the people I managed, or it was not human. So I really think it's important that we start to reflect deeply on how we can do things differently now, because otherwise we're going directly into the wall, right? and that is probably the message I want to send out. So I've also made a podcast to leaders where I kind of guide them into this type of reflective processes they can listen to while doing TRE as well. And I use that as well, also with the articles I write. So I try to influence this population with content, which is always important for this population. So I don't know if there are any other questions at this stage. I will share the presentation because in the presentation I've also added some just hands-on techniques on how to manage your energy when you're at work. Not manage your time, but how to really manage your energy to help you with stress and burnout. So I'll send the presentation to Hans after so he can share it with you. And of course, I'm happy to engage with any of you if you want to discuss or just have any questions after this. Anna.
Hello, sorry, I just jumped on because I just saw the email, so I only managed to see the last couple minutes. So I don't know if I'm imposing or anything, but since we're here having questions, why I jumped on is because I'm a TRE pro writer myself, and I would love to take the next step and for me to go into the corporate world. Because I find it actually pretty hard to find people who have the funds actually for doing TRE, because there's so many people interested, but they all don't have any money. And if I want to live off of this, I thought I'm going to go into the corporate world, going to make tons of money, and then I'm going to bring it back to schools and other like parts. So this is kind of like now my plan. But now I wanted to ask, how did you get into the corporate world? Like, were you there before? How did you do that? Because why it's beneficial, I get, but like
joining and thank you for the question. I really wanted this session to be interactive and kind of informal with you asking questions. So this is great. I was working in the corporate world before I became a TRE trainer. And I suffered a lot in the corporate world, especially in my last experience where I suffered from the stress and the high pressure. And so, but I had worked more than 10 years in the corporate world, and I'm now using those contacts to introduce TRE. But what you mentioned, I also start to work with business schools. So I think that's a great idea. And because, as I said, I mentioned it, I think it's really interesting to work with younger people who are not yet in the corporate world, but who will define this world in some years. So it's so important to provide them the tools for themselves, but also for their teams, so they can be part of the transformation I want to see. Where are you based, Anna?
I'm in Germany, and I really like what you just said, because I'm from the whole artsy world. I study dance and theater, so this is my main contacts. And I actually now made like a proposal that I want to send to my old uni, because I think what you say, young leaders, there's a lot of them like doing theater with young people or others, so they're gonna grow into leadership roles. And I think it's really important for them to be regulated, know how to regulate, and also be trauma informed. So that's why I made this thing now, and hope to get there, my first steps. But still in Germany, there's not, like, it's hard to as an entrepreneur to make money in school. Especially the art world. So this is my first steps, and I get my maybe like a good recommendation, right? And like go further. But this is like the steps, but really like important, I think. And I also see that the younger people in my generation, for example, are really interested in all these topics. So that's why I think it's easier to like get in there. The older generation, it really depends on the niche, I think. And this would also be a question, like, how do you manage that? Was it through personal contact, or like, how do you manage these conversations? Because when I think of my parents, it's like, you got to work, and you got to work hard, otherwise it's not valuable, right? Like, yeah.
I think that after my my corporate experience, where I really met the wall. So I suffered so much after that, and I just promised myself that I wanted to have a work where I felt that this was kind of my higher purpose as well, that I do something that I love, and I don't care really what other people think. If I meet reactions when I go and talk to people in companies that are kind of a little bit strange, or that they are judging, that's okay, because I really believe in what I do, and I really believe in TRE as well, because TRE opened up a new world to me, the world of trauma. So that was just kind of the beginning of a journey. After TRE, I did other trainings, I got other certifications that develop my skills in this area, because I think that's really important. And Hans and Sarah really, I think they allowed me to understand that it's so important to have deeper knowledge when you work with people who are under like high pressure, very stressed, traumatized people. I didn't have that sensibility in the beginning. And through the examination process, I realized that it's so important to really have this knowledge. So I think that, you know, when you follow your heart, it's always good. But then, of course, you have to earn money. So that's another. But I'm happy to connect if you want after this session, so we can exchange privately. And I'm happy to share my experience with you privately. It's not a problem. So if you want us to brainstorm, we can do that after in the following weeks. Happy to discuss. But I think you're on something there with the theater school or dancing school. And I think, if I remember correctly, Hans, on your website, or at least in the material we got before the TRA training, there are some articles. And I think there is an example from a theater school in Norway, isn't it? That uses TRE.
Yes, I have several articles on my web page. A few of them have been translated to English. I'm not entirely sure if that's the case with the one you mentioned there, but there's a theater school here in Norway for students, 3-year sort of actor training, and they have a TRE once a week for all their students. Not all at once, but all of them have TRE as part of their learning to manage stress, learning to connect more with themselves, learning to open up more for their sort of expressive repertoire, and so on. But especially the stress management of the pressure of being an actor, and the uncertainty, and many of these things that are important for them. And many of them, I think, of the students are there also for some type of personal development as well. I think it seems like I did teach there a bit as well, and it seems like the students really connect with TRE.
Thank you for that. That's great. And that's also what I love about these sessions, because I feel it's like connecting dots. So thanks for that. I would love to have the contact of the provider, Hans, because I'm also figuring out like how would I do it like practically with the students. But that we can do privately. Thank you.
Thank you. Esti, you raise your hand.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I find that being a great practitioner is one thing, but from being a good practitioner to being able to put it into practice, getting the clients, building up to be able to get the clients and make money out of it, this is a whole new avenue, which I would love. We should also do that in the TRE community, because I find like we're all individuals in all countries all over the world, but I think many of the TRE providers struggle with that. I'd like to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. That, you know, I think it's the challenge of all entrepreneurs somehow, to kind of, how do you earn money? How do you define your target group? And how do you monetize the activity? It is a challenge. For me, it was a challenge in the beginning as well. But then I think that by really defining your target group, where you want to work, as Anna said, she wants to target theater schools and dancing schools. That can be very specific, but it can be very interesting if you have experience in a certain field and you want to, I'm sorry, this is my cat, and you want to develop specifically one target. I think that is something that can be very beneficial. And also, of course, using your own network. If you don't have a network, figure out where you want to work, in which sector of activity, where do you feel that there is a need for this, and how can you reply to that need with TRE and develop the communication accordingly. So with my target group, with leaders, I knew that I had to produce content, because when you write articles, they trust you more, right? It's a trust issue as well. And when it comes to more alternative methods, they consider TRE to be more alternative. They need kind of the scientific, the science behind it to believe it. So I think it's really about, it's always difficult to introduce new things, but there is an opportunity in that as well. I don't know if you have, Francesca. I don't know if I said that correctly, and you're muted. You are muted, Francesca.
Sorry, I'm starting again. Sorry, I didn't see that. Yes, thank you. I didn't hear the beginning of your talk, sorry. But I have a question.
Yes.
I'm working since quite a while, since about 10 years here in Germany with TRE, and I have good experiences with people who are, I wouldn't say it's corporate world, but who are really suffering at their workplace with a lot of stress, really highly stressed, and I have an online group for that and so on, and it works well. How do you promote or make them doing it afterwards, after you have introduced them? Because I see, you know, people are excited about the immediate feeling and the results, and I have people who really go deep into it and practice it on their own. And I think this is kind of necessary if you really want to have an impact. And I see this is an issue, and I am not sure. I just wanted to hear your experience.
No, my experience is the same as yours, but I think that is with a lot of things, and that people don't necessarily will have the regular practice, but I can't force anyone to do that. And I don't
yeah.
but that's where I'm kind of okay with that as well, because I'm thinking as long as I introduce it and I show them they have the tool in their hands, somehow it's the responsibility of each human being to kind of continue that practice if they feel that it's good for them. But I agree with you. It's as with so many things that are good for human beings, you know, why don't they do it?
Yes, but yes, I see.
What I think can help is those regular contact points. If you do, so if you do online groups, that you also offer the possibility to meet on a regular basis, not too often, but a regular meeting point, because people like to gather. They like to exchange on their experiences as well, and Hans is doing this. So maybe you would like to share that, Hans, the group you put in place with one of the students from your training who is running.
So we do have a group, or we did have a group actually. At the moment it's not active, but the plan is to restart it, and we will have a meeting actually next Monday. But that's a group for the participants in my training, as well as previous participants. But you could say that this TRE Talks series, as well as the sessions, sort of grew out of the same idea to have a regular meeting point for people who are interested in TRE, who want to do TRE together and share experiences and listen to interesting talks as you are doing now, Maria. And and have different topics to reflect on and learn about different things related to TRE. Yeah, and it's possible to do this in, of course, in a smaller format. We are now online with people from different parts of the world. For some, they find more success in doing this locally, in their local community, and building sort of a local group in their city or country and so on. So that's others here in Norway are doing that more, and I know others also are doing that in their own countries. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't follow everything. It was a bit fast, but I have basically worked on not online but in person. I have also this experience that this is more kind of in a deeper way connecting. But yes, I understand. I mean, I know that this is always the same. Like I don't want to make something, do something, but I see that it is easier to say, okay, I know TRE, but I don't do it. But for instance, for a yoga session, you go. For a piano session, you go. You know that you don't play piano after a weekend, you know. You never do.
Also, Francesca, what I tell my clients, and that has worked quite well, is that I tell them not to do necessarily all the exercises prior.
Yeah, certainly. Certainly.
So they just go directly into the butterfly position at night in their bed.
Yeah.
And, you know, they tremor before going to bed. And a lot of people like that, because then, of course, their sleep quality is improved, and it's less of a constraint because they don't have to do all the exercises prior, which is kind of, you know, but maybe you tell your clients the same.
Yeah. And they do it, usually they do it like this. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining. I think maybe Darren, you had a question?
Yes, I'm just coming. Sorry, 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
Can you see me?
Yes, that's a beautiful background.
Ah, thank you. It's a bit better than my kitchen, which is where I'm sitting. Yeah, I was just thinking about, you were talking about the scientific evidence, and I think that's a really key point. I think this is a brilliant topic, you know, leadership, and also, of course, the very trendy thing now about self-leadership, right? So I think even though I'm not looking to go into corporate clients, my background isn't in corporate, so I don't feel called in that direction, and any attempts I made haven't really succeeded. My background is more in adult education, and I'm also really keen to get into the services, the first responders. So I'm really curious about, you know, as you approach them. I have thought about it many times and I haven't acted on it an awful lot. I think I've been providing TRE for 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, something like that now. And I feel if you could just speak a little bit about, you know, what scientific stuff you give, like what are the core things that you find are well received, sort of get them interested. You might send references or research papers or stuff, or what suggestions would you have? And I ask it specifically because I have
myself, but
a
it's
local police station interested in me working with them and also with their trainee cadets for the police. So yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. No, that's those are populations who really need it.
Yeah.
And there is also already existing articles on Hans's website on that type of work. So, but for what I wrote an article, the first one I wrote was about kind of how the brain responds to stress, basically. So the research around just the stress response, not necessarily research related to TRE, but I kind of just explained in a very easy way the research, kind of making the research around the stress response available to the readers, and explaining how TRE can help you release those stress hormones and those emotions that get stuck as well in the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just explaining the mechanisms of how the body responds when it's high stress or pressure, and that seems to really be quite well received, because for us it's something we know, but strangely enough, I realized that in corporate, managers and leaders are not aware of the neuroscience behind stress and burnout.
No.
They don't understand the biological mechanisms, or at least they have, you know, it's not something that they have studied or are aware of. So just giving them that information takes away a lot of taboo. Saying that this happens on an unconscious level, it's not your fault. It's just, you know, it's a survival mechanisms that's there for, you know, it has been with the human organism for 200,000 of years, and now it will be emotional stressors that will set us into states where we do things that are not necessarily rational. And then saying that TRE can be a good way to regulate and learn how to release that stress and also to connect. So I have taken that angle, but and I feel that has worked very well. But maybe Hans, you have so much experience as well. Would you maybe like to complement my answer?
I think you answered sufficient or very well. I just was thinking about the timing at this point, because we are it's 6:05, and we will move into the theory session afterwards.
Yes.
So sorry to be the time watcher who will.
But someone needs to do that as well. So.
So was this your last slide, or did you?
Yes, that was my last slide, but I have also other slides with practical advice. I didn't want to do kind of just a lecture today. I really wanted to have more conversation. So I really appreciate all your comments and questions. And yeah, it was really rich to me. So thank you all of you. And I'll send the presentation to Hans so he can share that with you for kind of more practical advice on how you can manage your energy in very stressful environments and so on as well, in addition to the TRE. I just added some things I use with corporations. So,
yeah,
but this was
super
the last slide
interesting,
of my
and I really enjoyed how you included the audience and all the questions from the audience as well, and the enthusiasm about this topic. Also some new topics that came up, how to build a business, or at least a viable practice, you could say, as a TRE provider. I think there is a bit of stress in that as well, being an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And starting up a new practice with lots of uncertainty and so on. So might be a topic for another talk at some point, if maybe we have someone in our community who is a sort of a entrepreneur, business builder, small business consultant.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. So I would like to thank you very much for this talk. Lots of appreciative comments in the chat as well. So it seems like it was much appreciated and enjoyed by our audience.
Thank you so much. This was really, really nice. And thank you so much for your participation. And yeah, really, really interesting to me as well to get all your questions and feedback.
Great. So what we will do now is that we will end this talk, and then we will move on to the next session in about, I think we will give around 10-minute break, and then we start. But those who have signed up, they need to connect using the other Zoom link. I will provide you with that link as well, Maria. If anyone else who haven't signed up want to join, it's still possible to sign up via the TRE Talk webpage and join us there. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating.
So much. And just reach out to me if there is anything, all of you. Happy to connect after the session.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Maria's email is on her webpage. So if you go to the webpage, you can send from there. I will quickly input it here. You'll find it here on this page. Okay, so I need to end this Zoom link, and we'll see many of you afterwards. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.